You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports on this Wednesday night. And what a very, very exciting night for you we have tonight. We're going to be talking some Lightning hockey in about 10 minutes with Dan Herrejon, the editor-in-chief of Scrum Sports. Former Lightning insider will be joining us live. Lots and lots of Lightning talk to go over today. We're also going to have another special guest, Dave Jensen, 1984 U.S. Olympic hockey player and former NHL player, will be joining us as well. I'm just making a quick correction here. Let's make sure. There we go. So he will be joining us right after the interview with Dan Herrejon. But before we get to Lightning talk, it would not be right if we didn't go ahead. And if you have not heard yet today, the USF women's basketball team, an unbelievable game where they didn't play well for the first three quarters, really turned it on, went on to a 51-47 victory over Tulane, and just a great win for this program. They will now play in the AAC title tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Elisa Pazan had 6 free throws, 6 for 6 down the stretch with free throws to seal the victory for the USF Bulls. Maria Alvarez, an unbelievable game. I believe she had 3 or 4 3-pointers in that game. And what we'll probably do is we will probably go on our USF Network Bullseye immediately following this show, probably about 10 minutes after, to go ahead and give you an update, a special report on that game. That'll be on our Bullseye channel somewhere around 10:15, 10:30 tonight. So go ahead and look out for that. So once again, USF women's basketball team, congratulations on moving to the finals in the AAC tournament tomorrow night. That's Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern time, and we look forward to that. But, you know, one of the other big topics this week has to be our very own Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, our Tampa Bay Lightning, you know, are off to one of their best starts ever. You know, this team is now 18-4-1. Everybody knows about the huge comeback we talked about when they went down 3-0 versus the Blackhawks over the weekend, ended up winning 6-3. You know, last night again, seems like the Lightning like to start off slow for some reason. They went down 1-0 before scoring 2 goals in that period. Ended up a 3-3 tie at the end of regulation, and then Blake Coleman with 2:17 into the overtime. It looked like he got an assist from Tyler Johnson and scored the game-winning goal. Coleman had a goal and an assist in this game. Also, the Lightning now have a 9-game point streak, which means they have at least 1 point in each of their last 9 games. They are now 4-0-1 on our road trip. You can get all the Lightning updates, all the Lightning articles from Joe D'Angelo on our Frankly Speaking Sports Facebook page. Everything he does, he sends to us, copies to us. Unbelievable, Angelo. So please go ahead and make sure you read some of these incredible articles. Last night, Point had a goal, and Cernicek and Johnson each had a point and an assist. Vasilevsky, 20 saves. What can you say about him? And I'll tell you what, that Coleman, I believe it's Coleman, Goodrow, and Johnson, that third line is really, really starting to play well. And I'm very excited about that Lightning team. I know one of our fans the other day was asking about Blake Coleman. They said, Larry, what's going on with Blake Coleman? I said, Blake Coleman is fine. He's distracting the goalie. He's distracting people in front. And yesterday, what happens? He gets a goal and an assist right after we talk about it. So there is your Blake Coleman to the fans that were asking about him. But, you know, the Lightning are 18-4-2. We're halfway through, folks, and they beat a Red Wings team that, you know, I don't know what happened to the Red Wings. I mean, it's just that the Red Wings just seem to fall apart after all those glory years. They're not just as good as a hockey team as they were. But, you know, and some people talk about the schedule, which we'll get into with Dan in a little bit when he comes on. But, you know, you play the games they put on the schedule, and your job is to win those games. Your job is to win those games, and that's exactly what the Lightning are doing. What can you say about this Lightning team? You look at this Lightning team, Victor Hedman leading the team in points, leading the team in assists with 20 assists, leading the team and helping them provide the best penalty kill at 86.9% in the NHL. This is a very good hockey team. You know, the one thing that I would like to see them do, and, you know, you got to understand something, folks. When the Lightning are out there, the Lightning won the Stanley Cup last year. Everybody knows that. So these teams are coming in with a load of fire to beat this Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning, whether they're a good team, a not so good team, or even a bad team. They're coming in with the most adrenaline that they probably have all year, and they want to knock the teeth out of the Tampa Bay Lightning, whereas the Lightning may be just taking a little bit longer to get started. I don't like it, but it's just a fact. It might be the way it is. And then they're showing everybody how good of the team. Remember, hockey is 3 20-minute periods, 60 minutes, okay? It's who plays the best hockey in those 60 minutes. Sometimes you're going to have moments or lapses where you don't play your best hockey during the game, and you hope it doesn't cost you. Last over the weekend when they went down 3-0, they showed they could handle adversity. And this isn't the first time this team has shown that they can handle adversity. They've handled adversity many, many times before. They continue to handle adversity. They keep coming back. They're playing a lot more physical than we've ever seen a Lightning hockey team play before. It doesn't matter if it's Points getting in fights, Stamkos is getting in fights. You're seeing, of course, Maroon, who we're used to getting in fights. This is a physical team that is letting the league know, let it be known that we are not going to take crap from anyone, and that we plan on winning this Stanley Cup again in the 2021 season. And I'll tell you what, damn, they look very, very good and on their way. We don't want to jump, the gun here. It's only the first half of the season. Remember what happened 2 years ago towards the second half of the season when we won the President's Cup. We started playing real poorly towards the end of the season, and it carried over to that Columbus series, like you all know, and we ended up losing. So you want to continue now in the second half of the season. You want to try I say you want to try. It's harder to do than it is to say, to keep everybody as healthy as possible. That goes without saying, yet it's not easy. But you also want to make sure those last 10 games of the season, we have about 22 games left in the season or 21 games left in the season. You want to make sure you're playing your most fluent, concise hockey that you played all season, because that will carry over into the playoffs. Just checking my phone here to make sure that everybody is okay as far as our guests go. Okay, good news there. And we're about, looks like we're about a minute away from having Dan Herrejon on with us. He should be joining us very shortly here. And we have lots and lots of Lightning hockey to talk about. For all of you folks that are listening right now, especially those of you that have friends or fans you know of that are Lightning fans, or any fans, just Tampa Bay fans in general, if you can go ahead, share this to your timeline, I would surely appreciate it. Any questions you may want answered about the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight, leave a comment. There's a comment section. We are on YouTube live right now. We are on Northeast Streaming Sports live right now. We are in the United Kingdom live right now. We also can be followed on Twitter at Larry Frankus. And we also are on Frankly Speaking Sports on all these different podcast platforms, such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes. So we are right now tonight alone being distributed over 100,000 viewers right now. Now, once again, we don't know how many are viewing, but that's what we're being distributed to. And we aren't even going to talk about the replays that we do throughout the next couple of days. But ladies and gentlemen, it is always my pleasure when we talk Lightning hockey as we are now, that I bring in a good friend of Frankly Speaking Sports. I want to make sure I say this right. He'll correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the Associate Editor-in-Chief of Scrum Sports. I think I said that right. I've been practicing for the last 3 days, so I think I got it right. But he's also been a Lightning insider, follows the Tampa Bay Lightning religiously. Let's welcome in. Let me see if I can pull him up here. There he is. Let's welcome in Dan Herrejon. Dan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me, Larry.
Always a pleasure, my friend. First of all, let me ask you this. We're halfway, I guess you can call it the halfway point of the year right now with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Right.
They're 18-4-2, tied for the most points in the NHL. Is this what Dan Herrejon expected? Is it more than you expected?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, my preseason prediction for the Lightning was that they were going to win first place in this new division. But to be honest with you, they have some question marks because Nikita Kucherov, we knew he was going to be gone for the entire season. And they had some, different lines. We knew that John Cooper was going to put together some different lines. But overall, I think, taking into consideration how strong this Central Division is, I'm happily surprised that they are playing as well as they are.
Now, you just mentioned John Cooper, who seems like no matter how great he is, always ends up taking crap somehow. Let me ask you this, Dan.
Sure.
We've watched him for years now, you and I. I mean, talk about the job that John Cooper continues to do about, when things aren't going like they should, he has a way of switching up lines and pressing the correct buttons to get this team fired up and playing great hockey.
Well, you're right. Larry, he has over the last few years, he's been the target of a lot of frustration from the fans because they had, prior to last year, they had not won the cup. But John Cooper has won a championship at every level that he's coached, including the NHL, which is obviously the toughest trophy to win in all of sports. So to me, John Cooper, he knows he's the right coach for this team in terms of being able to get the most out of these players. But Cooper has done this at every level from high school all the way up to the NHL. He's won championships, and you can't argue with that record.
No, not at all. And I guess you would have to say, Dan, if he wins, let's just go hypothetical a minute and say they win against this year. He definitely etches his name, obviously, in Lightning history as possibly the best coach the Lightning have ever had.
Well, sure. And look how well liked John Tortorella is here in Tampa because, he took a team that nobody expected in 2004 and he won the Stanley Cup. And he's still well liked and respected here in town. But if John Cooper were to, I already think he's pushing Tortorella in terms of the best coach who's ever coached here in Tampa, but a second Stanley Cup would certainly ice the deal.
Now, what is it about the Lightning, Dan, that they just seem not to like to get off to quick starts in these hockey games?
You have to, I think fans need to remember that they're not playing a ragtag team on the other end. In the NHL, there is so much parity, and any team truly can beat any other team on any given night. How do you explain the fact that the Detroit Red Wings, one of the worst teams in the league, the last couple seasons, that they gave the Lightning all that they could ask for last night in the overtime win by the Lightning? Nobody would have expected Detroit at the beginning of the season to give the Lightning any kind of trouble, but that's exactly what they did. The weekend series in Chicago, the same thing. the Blackhawks have not been a very good team over the last couple seasons, but they played tough and they played the Lightning tough. You know, they're the Stanley Cup champs, and when you're the current Stanley Cup champion, there's a bullseye on your back. Every team wants to try and measure themselves against the current champions, and that's the kind of effort that the Lightning are seeing on a game-by-game basis.
Dan, is this division that we so-called have this year with the Panthers, the Blackhawks, the Wings, the Hurricanes, and so on, is it a bad scenario for us when playoff time comes up? Because maybe the competition that we are playing, although they are playing us tough, may not be as good as some of these other conferences, and then you go into the playoffs and you're saying, wow, we really haven't seen teams this good, like the Bruins, I'm just throwing a name out there, or so on, that we probably will end up playing sometime through the playoffs. Could this be bad for us, or do you think that it's enough skill that would still get us ready for the playoffs?
Well, the good thing for the Lightning is that, you mentioned the Bruins, Toronto, who's leading the North Division, and Vegas, who's leading the West Division. They haven't played us either. So that, if we get to a point where the Lightning have to play in the playoff series against Toronto or against Boston, the advantage or I should say the disadvantage for everybody is that, but it's a level playing field, is that they haven't played a game in the season yet. So, but at the same time, the first two rounds are going to be within the Central Division. So that's to me, that's a bigger hurdle for the Lightning than in past seasons, because they're going to play a team, whoever finishes, let's say the Lightning end up in first place in the Central, and they will play in the first round the team that ends up in fourth place in the Central. For now, if the season were to end right now, that would be the Chicago Blackhawks. And again, I think the Lightning are a much better team than the Blackhawks. But you look at the three game series they just finished Sunday. It took the Lightning in game one of that series overtime to win. In fact, they won with 1/10 of a second left in overtime. Yeah. The game was about to go to a shootout. In game two, it did go to a shootout, and Chicago won by 1 goal. And in the third game, almost halfway through that third game, Chicago was winning 3-0. Yep. So, it gives an advantage to a team like, the teams that could end up in the third or fourth seed, because they've seen the team that they're going to play often, far more often than they would have in 56 games in any other season. So I think that could be a hurdle for the Lightning. But the way they're playing, you mentioned 18 wins. They're first in the league. They're number one in the league. They're number one in their division. Number one in goals scored per game. Number one in goals allowed per game. I mean, they are clicking on all cylinders. And it's a little bit scary to think that Nikita Kucherov will probably be joining the team come playoff time. Right now, I'm hard pressed to think of a team that can beat the Lightning if they are clicking on all cylinders in a 7-game series.
Now, we talked about that, but talk about this physicality of the team this year. Just seems like we got a little bit, well, maybe I could say a lot more physicality in our game, and it's really showing in the results of the success of this team.
Oh, sure. And if you go back to the playoff run last year, we started to see that with Luke Shen and Pat Maroon and even some of the guys you wouldn't expect it from, like a Sergachev or a McDonough, we are seeing a very physical team. But I think they, in that playoff run, they realized uh, more so than in past recent seasons. I think the team, at least their play, showed that they realized that being physical, especially if you want a deep Stanley Cup playoff run, that being physical is an important factor in that, and they answered that bell.
And this team is unbelievable on the penalty kill as well this year. So some of that physicality is showing there. They're 86.9% penalty kill, which is just amazing, as you know. And what can you say about, and every year you just think you can't be in any more awe when you watch Andrei Vasilevskiy, but he seems like, people don't realize, Dan, this is still a young guy. It just seems like he's been around forever because of the success of the Lightning, but he's in his 20s. And what do you go, 220 minutes or even more than that without giving up a goal at one point, 3 straight shutouts or something. I mean, what can you say about Andrei Vasilevskiy?
I think you hit on the key point, Larry, and that is he's only 26 years old. Most goalies, they seem to come into their prime 28, 29, 30 years old. He's 2 to 4 years away from that. When you think about that and everything that he's accomplished, and especially how well he's playing this season, like you said, the 3-game shutout over 220 minutes, 3 consecutive shutouts, it's only 2 games away from the NHL record. To see how well this guy performs at such a young age, I mean, I'm excited to see where he's going to be at 28, 29, 30 years old when he really, really has 10 years under his belt. And I mean, I think he's one of the best goalies on the planet. He's only going to get better. That should scare the rest of the league.
And you talked about Kucherov not being back till possibly the playoffs. Could we have gotten any luckier to get Stamkos back at full strength when we did this season? Because there was part of us, and I would say a lot of us, that weren't sure about what his status was going to be at the end of the Stanley Cup run come the start of this season. How great of a pleasant surprise is it seeing him? He has, I think, 22 points, 11 goals, 11 assists in about 25 games. I wouldn't call that too shabby.
No, not at all. And you bring up the situation, the injury situation in the playoffs. I mean, to think that he missed the entire playoffs, he played that one shift, scored the goal in I think it was Game 3 of the Stanley Cup final, but he hurt himself so much that he couldn't come back. I mean, you're right. He was a huge question mark. So much so that when the news came out that Nikita Kucherov was going to be out for the year, it did put a fear in a lot of the Lightning fans because Stamkos was still a question mark. But I think he's certainly rose to the challenge. But it's not just him. I was looking at some of the stats today.
Yep.
They lead the league in goals per game, but yet their top goal scorer, Stamkos, is only 25th in the league. You look at the team, they're spreading out that scoring because
Absolutely.
Braden Point, Andre Pilat is having a resurgence this year, playing on that top line with Braden Point. He has 7 power play goals. He's filling in that side where Nikita Kucherov would play in the on the power play. So he's has arisen to the challenge as well. So you look at guys like and look at Anthony Cirelli, Yanni Gord is putting the puck in the net. He had a 2-goal game a couple nights ago or Sunday. So even Pat Maroon is finding the net. So I think that's really, somebody asked me at the beginning of the season when we knew Kucherov was going to be gone, they said, well, who's going to replace him? My quick answer was, it's going to be everybody. You aren't going to find one guy who's going to come in and score 40 goals like Kucherov did. I said it's going to come from different guys. Stamkos will add some, Pilat will add some, because they're playing ice time that normally would have gone to Kucherov, but it's not. He's not there. So you see Braden Point, Cirelli, Killorn, Yanni Gord, they're all stepping up. And if they all, if 10 guys can score 3 more goals than they did last year, that makes up Kucherov's missing goals. So I think you're right about Stamkos, and it's been a very, very pleasant surprise. But I think the
hold on. Hey, Dan, will you go ahead and log out and come back in? You just went down on our area, so nobody could hear you from this point on except me. So just log out and come right back in. Okay, we'll have Dan back up in a moment, folks. I apologize about that. I don't know if he hit a button or something and it went down or something, but he should be right back with us. Let's hope that he knows about it. Let me just give him a quick message. All right, I'm sure he will. So sometimes good old computers will do stuff like that. They kick us out. It could have been his phone. Not sure, but he was talking about Andre Pilat, and Andre Pilat, amazing, has 10 goals and 11 assists on the season already, 21 points. So it just justifies what Dan's been saying about the spacing out of all the points among these players. And you look at Yanni Goal, you look at Goodrow, you look at Tyler Johnson, all these folks are getting involved, and in some way, shape, or form, they're going ahead and they're producing. And I'm just going to make sure that, he's coming right back on now. So we should see Dan in a moment. There he is. Dan must not like the question I asked us. No, there he is. I'm just kidding. Let's bring him right back up.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there.
Well, no, it's all right. But, just to validate your point, I was validating what you said about everybody consistently getting points on this team. Andre Pilat, 10 goals and 11 assists. But someone we haven't mentioned who always seems to not get as much credit as he deserves is Victor Hedman. 5 goals and 20 assists, Dan. I mean, leading the team in points with 25 points in what we say, the 23 games. So unbelievable there. And I wanted to ask you, because we got a couple minutes left, this third line is really starting to build some chemistry. I think the last 2 games, maybe even longer. Tyler Johnson, a lot of questions about him. Seems like, I think he got a point and an assist last night. He assisted the game-winning goal by Coleman.
Right.
And then you got Coleman on that line, obviously. And I want to say either Goodrow might be on that line. What do you think of that third line? How big is it for that line if that line can do what it's been doing the last couple of games?
Well, last year in the playoff run, Yanni Gord was centering that line with Goodrow and Coleman, and they were a spark plug. They were the energy line for the team, and that certainly helped. We saw how much it helped in the playoff run. But John Cooper recently has put Yanni Gord and kind of lined him up with Steven Stamkos and Alex Killorn. So it dropped the third line to Tyler Johnson, Anthony Cirelli, and Barclay Goodrow. And I like the chemistry. Tyler Johnson has been playing on the wing, has been playing a winger the last couple seasons, and center is his natural spot. He's been playing a little bit more center, and we're seeing a little bit more production from him than we've seen in recent years. I think center is where his best production comes from. And I think the world of Anthony Cirelli. I like the way he plays. It doesn't matter. He plays every foot of those 200 feet. And I like those kinds of players. Andre Pilat is the same way. But Anthony Cirelli, when he went down 3 weeks ago and missed a couple games, I think it was 3 games he missed, the Lightning lost those games. He's such an important factor in the penalty kill. But also, whatever line he plays in, he seems to give that line some energy. And, I think like you said, I like what I'm seeing in that third line. I like the fact that John Cooper has mixed up the lines a little bit here and there. That's always good because you never know what happens in the playoffs. If a guy gets injured, you don't want to throw 2 guys together who have never, barely know each other's names. You want guys who have the history or have some knowledge of how the other guy's going to play, where the other guy's going to be at certain situations. So to be able to do that, mix the lines, the injuries like Kucherov, Mitchell Stevens he was out the first week of the season. He's starting to skate now, but it's still going to be some time before we see him. But to get these guys back, as like you said, we're almost at the halfway point or close to it. We're going to be thinking playoffs pretty soon.
Dan, last question before I let you run here. Sure. This Saturday, fans are back in the stands, my friend. We're going to be raising the Stanley Cup championship banner. How special of a night is that going to be in Tampa Bay?
It's going to be extremely special. The shame is that, normally it'd be a packed house in Amalie. But you know what? Circumstances being what they are, I understand, only about 3,500 fans are going to be there. It's going to be very special for them and for anyone who sees it on TV and just sees that banner being raised. But you know what? Let's challenge the team to go out and get another one. So next year, when we raise the banner, that it'll be that full house.
Yep. All right, my friend. Well, listen, as always, I want to thank you very much for joining us on Frankly Speaking Sports. Before you go, why don't you let the fans know? I know we have a lot of people that love the information, whether it's an article you do or whatever you happen to do related to the Lightning at different times. I know you're on Scrum Sports, but why don't you tell them how they can follow you?
Sure. They can follow me on Twitter at Dan Herrejon, Herrejon, on Facebook. The site is thescrumsports.com, and we cover the Lightning. We cover all the Tampa teams, the Bucks, the Rays, and we've got a great group of writers there. So follow us to get your Tampa sports insights.
All right, my friend. Once again, thanks so very much for coming on, and stay safe.
All right, take care. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That was Dan Herrejon, editor-in-chief at Scrum Sports. Does all different sports on Scrum Sports. Follow him at scrumsports.com. I'm just updating one thing for you folks as we continue to get information in. I want to make sure that, let me go, boom, boom, there we go, and that goes. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, let's update that. We are a couple of minutes away, just so you know. We are about to have David Jensen on, 1984 U.S. Olympic hockey player, also played in the NHL for the Hartford Whalers. He also played for the Washington Capitals. He will be joining us momentarily, and David sent a photo. Okay, let's see. Let me just say just phone. Instructions. All right. That was David letting me know he's trying to come on right now. Sometimes people's browsers are different than what we have on. So we'll give David a couple of minutes. But you heard about the Lightning, and this is a team that, like I said, we want to stay hot. We don't want them falling off because we remember what happened a couple of years ago. This is a team that needs just to continue to do what they are doing. And, you know, a lot of people ask why. And I asked Dan that question because Dan gave me the exact answer that I would have expected Dan to give me. He said, Larry, every team is coming in looking to beat the Stanley Cup champs. Goes without saying. You want to put your best effort out versus the best teams. Not that you don't want to do it every game, but you just play at a different level when you're playing a Stanley Cup champion. And that's the reason. I mean, we can't be 100% accurate that that's the issue, but with obvious cause, teams are coming in, giving their best effort. Copy, link, and put in browser. Oh, okay. Sorry about that, folks. We're trying to get David on right now. He's having some issues getting on, so we're going to go ahead and try real quickly to get him on. And we'll see. Okay, he's having some trouble getting on, so we will give him a couple more minutes and see if I can real quickly. I'm going to try to do something here, folks. So if I lose you, stay where you are. It'll be 1 second. I will be right back. All right, folks, I am still here. I'm just trying to bring something up for a minute to see if we can get David on right here. So stay with me. This should be a terrific interview. Let me see if I can get this up. Yep, I think I can. All right. So let's do this. What's your number? I'll call you and we will do phone interview live. All right. So what we're going to end up doing, folks, is we'll go ahead and give them a call. You folks are used to this. We'll go ahead, give them a quick phone call, and we'll do it over the phone with them. So let's wait on David right now. All right, let me go ahead and get everything ready for David. There we go. All right. Let's go ahead and get David on the phone. Hello. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to introduce to you on the Frankly Speaking Sports Hotline, 1984 U.S. Olympic hockey and former NHL player, David Jensen. David, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Good, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing great. Sorry about the, I didn't realize that, on that end, what it takes sometimes to get on here. So I do apologize about that.
No, it's my fault. No problem. I'm not very technically inclined.
Yeah, that makes two of us. I want to start off with the year 1984.
Sure.
You're on the Olympic hockey team. Talk about how special of a moment, David, it is when an athlete like yourself gets the opportunity to represent his country.
It's almost indescribable. It's a surreal feeling, especially following the 1980 Miracle team. I was so fortunate. I was drafted by the Whalers. I was a first-round pick of the Whalers in '83, my junior year in high school, in June, and I made the Olympic team a month later in July when they had the National Sports Festival. And back then, Larry, it was a 6-month tour. I'm not sure if you saw the movie Miracle. It was we had the same schedule they had. You leave in early August is when training camp happens out in Colorado Springs, and you're gone from the first week of August until the last week in February when the Olympics end, which is a long, 6.5 month road trip. Play about 60, 65 preseason games. We were over in Europe a couple of times. We played the Russians in a 6-game series in Alaska. That was in August, and we actually played them again in December in a 6-game series back in the States here. Just an amazing experience. I remember the first game. It was against the Russians in Anchorage, Alaska in August, and it was a preseason game, begin the season, but the feeling, like you said, to put on that USA hockey jersey and go out there, it was like a dream come true. It was surreal. It was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had. Fortunately, I was able to do that about another 65 times during the preseason. And then I think we had 6 games in the Olympics. And take it to the next level when you're actually in the Olympic Games and you put that jersey on. Again, next to the, it's surreal. Next to the birth of my 2 children, it's the greatest feeling I've ever had.
Now, keep that 1984 team on your mind a minute, because I want to talk about that team. And obviously, you mentioned the movie Miracle, but everybody knows about the Miracle on Ice. I was around for that. The 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team, how they won the gold medal. How much more pressure as a team, David, did the team feel on them because they were the defending gold medal winners in the 1980 U.S. Olympics?
I think there's definitely some added pressure to that, and I think it's a little more difficult to go over to back then, a communistic country in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia, to sort of defend that title. But it was a totally different team. We only had 2 players from the 80 team on our team. And I'll be quite honest with you, Larry, for myself, I was so young and wet behind the ears, I didn't feel the pressure probably the way maybe some of the older guys did. I was thrilled to be there. I was fortunate. I played in the line with Pat LaFontaine and Eddie Olczyk, and we were all young. Eddie was 17, Pat was 18, and I was 18. And, they called us the diaper line. That's how young we were. So I got to be honest, after 6 months, I didn't really feel the pressure of, defending the medal. You take it one game at a time. You're grateful to be there, and every time you put on your skates, we were taught, and we had some great coaches, that you play you play your heart out. You play every shift like it's your last. And again, I don't think it was really, we felt that kind of pressure. Maybe the rest of the country or people who weren't on our team felt that, but we certainly, I don't think we did, to be quite honest with you.
Now, you were picked before then, like you said earlier, David, in the 1983 NHL entry draft as a junior in high school. Were you expecting that, or was that something that came by surprise, being the 20th overall pick as a junior in high school?
Actually, I kind of was expecting it because there was a lot of attention that draft year. I only made the draft. I think the cutoff was September 1st back then. So I made the draft by, my birthday was August 19th, by less than a couple of weeks, I would have been in the 84 draft. So, hence being drafted sort of like that junior year of high school. So, I was fortunate enough to play on some really good, I played in the ISL in the Boston area, and there was some great hockey, players that came out of the area. Bobby Carpenter sort of paved the way for us back in those days. I think he was drafted in 81. But, it was one of the best high school leagues in the country. And there were quite a few scouts at all the games. And I was fortunate enough to play on some national camps out in Colorado that a lot of scouts were at, where Louis Vera actually used to run those, the 84 Olympic coach. So I had a lot of exposure at that point in time. And I had talked to enough scouts, and actually had been, they've been talking to my family representative at that time, so that I knew that I was sort of in that first round range. One of the things that probably hurt me more than anything, Larry, was being young in the junior and high school, and having another year left of high school before I could actually turn pro. Back in those days, most first rounders were expected to start, in the NHL. That's the way it was. It was a totally different world back then.
Right.
So it was totally different. I was fortunate to be drafted in the first round, but to answer your question, it was kind of it was expected, because of, all the scouts were around during my junior year.
Now, you had some circumstances where, throughout the years you played in the NHL, then you played in, well, I guess you would call it IHL, AHL, then you went back to the, NHL, obviously. What did, because you started out, of course, in the NHL. What did you learn when you did get sent down to these other leagues that helped you later on when you came back, let's say with the Capitals?
Yeah, so, like anytime that happens, unfortunately, I'll backtrack a little bit. I had a very serious knee injury my rookie year. I tore my ACL, MCL, and PCL, and really, it devastated probably my career at that point in time. I had reconstructive surgeries where back then they used to put the screws and bolts in, and I had tendon acting as my ligament. So that didn't help things, Larry, to be honest, my first year pro. So coming back and playing the AHL and my whole career was sort of injury riddled after that point. I had another major reconstruction. About 5 years later, I had 2 reconstructive shoulder surgeries. So, if it taught me anything, it was just character and perseverance. And, I kept trying to get back to where I was prior to my injuries. And, I did, for some points in my career, but I just couldn't sustain it. There were way too many injuries, during the course of my 8-year pro career.
Well, talk about your first NHL goal. I believe it was when you were with the Washington Capitals. Talk about that. And I mean, that had to be, you work your whole life to get to this goal to play in the NHL. I'm sure you envisioned yourself as a kid scoring your first NHL goal. What was it like when you did?
Well, it was an incredible feeling. I still remember pretty vividly. Like you said, it's something you'll never forget. And it was my first game back from that reconstructive surgery I was telling you about with the Caps in '85. I had been out almost probably 9 months, almost a full year, rehabbing that knee. And the first game, it was a situation where, and again, it's in my mind, so how real it was, I don't know. I remember being in a situation where the puck came to me at probably our blue line, and I was, even with the 2 defensemen, but I had an avenue sort of to split the D. And I did, and I was skating. It seemed like it took me 10 minutes to get from my near blue line on a breakaway where you're kind of getting hooked along the way, so to speak. And, I remember, deking one way, deking another way, and throwing the puck at the net, and it went off. I think it went off a 2-poster in. It was just a crazy feeling. And, if I saw it on tape, it's so weird because I don't, 1985 was a long time ago, and I believe Home Team Sports was the Caps' local, cable channel back then. I don't have a video of that goal, so I've never been able to watch it, so it's all in my mind, and it could be totally different the way, when you're on the ice, and you actually,
Right.
You know what I'm saying, right? From
Yeah.
the visual up above to what you're feeling in the heat of the moment in the world's fastest game, right? I'd love to see what it was really like and what it was like in my mind,
Yeah, and you talk about how fast things happen. You also got to play in 11 playoff games in a very short career. Talk about playoff hockey and what it's like. I mean, obviously it's the same game, but it's a lot faster level of hockey than the regular season, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. It's hard to quantify, but it's definitely a step or two faster. Things happen quicker out there, and the adrenaline is way up. One of the greatest games I ever played in was it was an Easter Classic. We played, I believe it was '87, Easter Sunday. They called it. The game started on Saturday night. I think game started around 7:30 back then. It was on ESPN. It was a game 7 against the Islanders, and it went 4 overtime periods. So it didn't end until I think it was 2:30 in the morning. So talk about a crazy game. Game 7, and the speed that game was played at, to play 7 periods, right? Or like halfway through your 7th period. It was incredible. It was one of the greatest experiences ever. And my good friend, Pat LaFontaine's the guy who actually scored the goal in the 5th overtime period. But that was, the playoff hockey was it's another level. It's almost like the Olympics, if you know what I mean. It's a special feeling to be involved in the NHL playoffs.
Now, I heard I thought I heard you say that you played some with the Bruins as well, correct?
Yeah, I did. Unfortunately, the 2 years I was with Boston, I told you I had 2 reconstructive shoulder surgeries, and they were at the end of camp both years. So it was sort of an unfortunate time for me. But, unfortunately here, I do a lot. I'm a member of the Bruins alumni team, and we played many, many charity games here over the course of the season.
Well, the reason I ask you is because I grew up the same time as you, and I lived in Boston for 5 years. I used to go to the Garden in the days when Milbury and O'Reilly and, Cashman, they were all playing. And that's why I asked you. I mean, but before you got injured and you knew you had the opportunity to play with the Bruins, you growing up in Newton or Needham, how big of a thrill was it when you thought you were going to finally get that opportunity to play in the Garden in front of those fans?
Yeah, it was something special. It was really, it was a great feeling. And speaking of Riley, he was the coach my first year, '88 with him, and he's actually he's a very close friend of mine now. We actually have a property together. So, like I said, it was an amazing time in my life. And since then, it's such a tight-knit group, Larry. Like I said, we as part of the Bruins alumni, we have so many charity functions on the ice, and involved in a nonprofit where we do a ton of anti-bullying programs off the ice in the city, in the middle schools, where we play street hockey with the kids and have some pizza with them and talk about making a positive difference in their lives and helping each other instead of hurting each other, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really the best thing I'm involved in. It's unfortunate because since the COVID, we obviously haven't been able to do that. It's tough to, with kids, it's not, you can't really do it virtually like you can do other stuff. But I can't wait to get back to that because we were doing that on a regular basis. And like I said, it's the greatest thing I'm involved with, and such a special thing, working with kids and trying to make a positive difference in their lives.
Yeah, that's awesome, my friend. And is there any way that anybody can get, that is listening to the show, anything they can do to help you out or get involved in that or go to a website?
Well, it's I also run hockey skills up here too. I do checking clinics and work with local programs. So that's just that's DHAHockeyskills.com. It's just my initials. That was David A. Jensen. It's funny, there was another David Jensen on the Olympic team, and that's why I'm David A. and he was David H. So yeah, that's just my hockey website. We the anti-bullying stuff we do is something that I've been involved with a company called Hockey Cares for Kids. There's a website there as well, And it's something that, like I said, it's really special to be able to work with the kids, and it's the greatest privilege that I can have and honor working with them.
Yeah. Now, before I let you run, David, I got time for one more question, and it's you might have answered it already in this conversation that we had, but if you have to go back in, from the time after high school when you got drafted by the Whalers to the end of your career, of course, with your injury, what is the one moment that would stick out about your entire hockey career?
As a positive?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I would say so. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. There's a lot of moments that stick out. I think if it was the greatest moment I ever had was probably, I would say playing the Olympics, the first game and scoring a goal. In the Olympics was probably it sticks out most in my mind, even more than the NHL. It was the greatest feeling ever to put that USA sweater on and represent your country. So it would be that, the opening ceremonies and playing my first Olympic hockey game.
I could only imagine. Well, listen, my friend, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to join us on Frankly Speaking Sports. It's been a pleasure, and you're always welcome back.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
All right, be safe.
Okay. All right, you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was David Jensen, former NHL hockey player and also a 1984 U.S. Olympic hockey player with us on Frankly Speaking Sports. Want to remind you all that tomorrow night, beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be back with another edition of Frankly Speaking Sports. We will have a surprise guest. We're going to make a decision tomorrow night. We know the USF Women's is playing tomorrow night. We want to wish them the best of luck. The USF men's basketball team is playing at 12 o'clock noon tomorrow in the AAC tournament. So we want to go ahead and wish both of them the best of luck. I want to thank both our special guests tonight, Dan Herrejon, Editor-in-Chief at Scrum Sports, and David Jensen, former U.S. Olympic hockey and NHL player. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you on the next episode